Title: My wife asked to stay close friends after divorce, so I got close with her best friend. When Emily looked at me across the courtroom, her eyes didn't carry the love I once knew. Instead, they were calm, almost rehearsed, like she had been preparing for this moment for months. The judge's gavel echoed in the room, finalizing what we both had been dragging for far too long: our divorce. After 4 years of marriage, she walked out of that building lighter, freer, while I felt like I had just lost everything. But what cut me deeper wasn't the divorce itself. It was what she said right after, her voice soft, almost patronizing. "I still want us to be close friends, Daniel. I don't want to lose you completely." Close friends? The woman who swore vows under the altar, who promised to grow old beside me, was now offering friendship as a consolation prize. My heart screamed, but my pride made me nod. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. In the weeks that followed, I watched her move on with alarming speed. Her social media filled with pictures, new bars, new faces, new adventures. And I was left with the echoes of our empty apartment. Sometimes she'd text, casual and breezy, "Hope you're doing okay." Or, "Don't forget, we're still friends." Every word felt like salt in a wound. Then there was Claire, Emily's best friend since college, the one who used to sit at our dining table, laughing and sipping wine while telling stories about their reckless youth. Claire always looked at me differently, curious, observant, like she could read what Emily never bothered to understand. After the divorce, she reached out to check on me. A simple, "You don't deserve this, Daniel. Are you holding up?" But that message was the spark. For the first time, I realized how much I had been craving, not just attention, but understanding. And Claire, she offered exactly that. Where Emily was cold, Claire was warm. Where Emily dismissed me, Claire listened. Soon our late-night texts turned into calls, and the calls turned into dinners. And in every stolen laugh, I felt the ache of betrayal twist into something new. Something dangerously close to revenge. It started innocently. Or at least I told myself it did. Claire invited me to a small get-together at her apartment, just the two of us and a few friends. I hesitated at first, remembering the countless times Emily had insisted that Claire was like a sister to her. But something inside me, maybe pride, maybe curiosity, pushed me to say yes. From the moment I stepped in, the air between us was charged. Claire's laughter wasn't just playful, it was a challenge, teasing in a way that made my chest tighten. She knew the pain I carried, and she didn't shy away from it. "You're too good to be treated like this," she said, pouring me a drink. I wanted to argue, to say I was fine, but the truth was I had been drowning quietly for months. And for the first time, someone saw it. As weeks turned into months, we developed a rhythm. Coffee turned into lunch, lunch into walks, and walks into late-night drives where the city lights reflected in her eyes and made the world feel a little less heavy. She listened to my stories about Emily, the promises broken, the nights I spent pacing, wondering if I had failed as a husband. And in return, I listened to Claire's tales, her heartbreaks, her mistakes, the small betrayals she had endured silently. Yet every step closer felt like a silent rebellion. It wasn't just friendship anymore. It was something deeper, a connection that Emily had never bothered to nurture. And I realized that my heart, the same one that Emily had dismissed, was slowly being claimed by someone else. Not in the obvious way, not with force, but quietly, insistently. Then came the turning point. Emily called, as if nothing had changed. She wanted to catch up and laugh about old memories, all while subtly reminding me of the life we had lost. I smiled, pretending to be polite, all the while calculating. I had discovered a power I didn't know I possessed, the power to choose where my loyalty, my trust, my attention went. And for the first time, I understood. Staying close friends with Emily didn't mean submission. It meant control. I could play the role she expected, nod politely, and smile, but my heart would no longer be hers. It had quietly shifted, redirected toward Claire, who had quietly stood beside me when Emily had walked away. And in that quiet rebellion, I began to taste the subtle sweetness of revenge. Not the vindictive kind, but the kind that comes from reclaiming your own dignity. It wasn't dramatic. There were no shouting matches or public confrontations. Instead, I let my actions speak, slow and deliberate. I accepted Emily's messages, smiled at her calls, even met her once for coffee. But every time, I noticed the difference. My eyes wandered, my mind was elsewhere, and my attention always found Claire. Emily expected the same Daniel she once knew, obedient and forgiving, but that version of me no longer existed. Claire, on the other hand, became my refuge. Her laughter, the subtle teasing in her tone, the way she seemed to understand my silence, all of it filled spaces I hadn't realized had been empty. One evening, we found ourselves sitting on her balcony, the city below bathed in golden light. She rested her hand over mine casually, and I felt a jolt, a mix of comfort and exhilaration. I looked at her and she smiled knowingly, as if to say, "This is ours now." I realized then that my closeness with Claire was more than emotional support. It was reclamation. Every laugh, every shared secret, every glance that lingered too long was a small victory, a reminder that I was no longer bound by Emily's expectations or manipulations. I had been betrayed, yes, but betrayal was not the end. It was the beginning of awareness, of freedom. Emily never suspected the depth of my connection with Claire. When she asked why I seemed distant during our last meeting, I simply smiled and said, "I'm focusing on what matters most." She frowned, and for a moment, I saw the flicker of realization in her eyes. But it was too late. My heart had already chosen its path, and Emily's attempts at rekindling friendship felt like shadows of a life I had already moved past. By the time the dust settled, I wasn't just surviving the divorce, I was thriving. The woman who once held my heart in her careless hands had lost it, not because I allowed her to, but because I reclaimed it for someone who truly valued it. Claire had become more than a friend. She was a partner in understanding, in laughter, in subtle revenge that didn't shout but whispered. And as I finally let myself relax, watching the sunlight glint off Claire's hair, I understood something simple yet profound. Life after betrayal doesn't have to be hollow. It can be a canvas for your own choices, your own happiness, and for proving quietly, but unmistakably, that you are stronger than anyone who ever underestimated you.